this is the generation that will be undertaking these missions. And the UAE just formed a new space agency last year. And they
many news coming down to the headlines where UAE is trying to make new programs, especially recently we have heard about the Mars mission and other things. Just to give you a simple background about what's happening these days, it's not just like kind of improvising that every day we're just giving you new news, but it's an effort of development that was going for some time, and what we see today is a kind of a result of those efforts. And definitely, UAE have a very bold vision to motivate its children, the young generation, to do amazing things for the future of its country and the region in general. Our leaders, Sheikh Khalifa, bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, when they put for us this bold vision, they wanted basically that we, all of us together, the citizens of the UAE, and especially the new generation, you as a students, to be motivated, to get that that anxiety, that passion to love, to explore new things and create future for all of us. Because what you're going to do, going to create the future for all our nations and the whole human race. So beautiful, so strong, that makes every problem we can face easy. And we believe definitely, we as a total human race, we are blessed with curiosity. Curiosity to explore, curiosity to look for the future. Though we have lots of problems in our communities, between us, in our lives, but the enjoyment of exploration can put all that down and give us so much supremacy in moving up forward and going and exploring boldly the uncharted territories and going nobody will have gone. We are very good dreamers. Not only dreamers, but also achievers of the dreams. And this is what I believe, that all of us together can do great things if we believe and we have that good dream to come up. And I think UAE is trying its best to give us the best of the best so we can really go and fulfill our dreams. Shall we dream about the space? I think we ought to dream for the space and beyond. Thank you.
Sir, can I please ask you a question? Is there any health problems after a successful shuttle mission, like coming back to Earth? Can you state some of the health issues, and do you think it can be prevented?
Some of the major health issues for the astronauts, we lose our muscle strength, we talk about. Our bones get weaker as well in space without gravity making them strong. And those two things we can kind of work on. When we get back to Earth, we can strengthen our muscles again. We can rebuild our bones once we come back. But the one big issue, if we go beyond Earth, to the moon, to Mars and beyond, we have to worry about is radiation. That's a really tough problem. We're protected here on Earth by the magnetic field lines that surround our planet. But once you leave Earth orbit and head out, you're exposed to the full radiation of space. If there's a solar storm, that's a big problem. And for our astronauts, I've been exposed to a little more radiation than I would have been had I not been an astronaut. Astronauts are more likely to get cataracts on their eyes because of that. But these are some of the issues we're working on today up at the International Space Station. So maybe when you and you and you and you go to Mars, maybe we create an artificial magnetic field around your spacecraft. Or maybe we have pharmaceutical drugs that'll help you, protect you against the radiation. Or maybe, 25, 30 years from now, we can do genetic screening. And we can look at individuals and say, oh, this person has great resistance to radiation. Maybe they're a good candidate to go to Mars. So those are some of the options, but I think the greatest hurdle to really going out in deep space is that radiation problem. That's a great question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good evening, sir. I have another question. Sir, on Earth, we measure temperature using a mercury thermometer, and the level of the mercury rises on helium. On space, how do we measure temperature? Because we don't have gravity, the level of the mercury do not rise.
I'm not sure how we measure. I have to be honest and say, I don't know how we measure temperature in space. We have thermocouples too that work without mercury. Just two metals, different metals that you put them together, and they produce an electrical signal at a certain temperature, so you can measure the temperature that way. And the space shuttle had all kind of sensors, temperature sensors embedded in it. So we can measure temperature in space without a regular mercury thermometer up there.
Okay, sir, I have another question. Can we experience atmospheric pressure there? If so, can we use a spheric manometer and a stethoscope to measure, to check the blood pressure of the person?
Can we use a normal stethoscope?
Manometer and a stethoscope.
Yeah, we use those up in space all the time. They work
It works.
the same as here on Earth.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. We've got some inquisitive minds here tonight, huh?
Being the representative of Combustors, International Combustor in Cassandra, what is your experience in bringing an eminent astronaut to UAP? And how would you take it ahead, and what is the general response of education institutions? Did you have any specific goal behind it?
Okay. Hi. My connection to the whole event is that I've been working with Lizzie at Compass Travel to bring Dr. Dont here to see you, and as many other people as we could possibly fit into his schedule. And I think he'll agree that we've worked him pretty hard in the last couple of days in ensuring that he can see as many children as he possibly can. In the past, Compass has sent many students, as in fact some of your students here, to the space camps in Huntsville and in other space camps, so that they can experience that they have the experience of space camp and science and the people that they meet. They learn leadership skills, but it's not enough. For Lizzie wanted to actually ensure that more children could have those experiences. So by bringing Dr. Thomas here, we've been able to open that up to not just students but parents and a lot of other people. I think if we added up the amount of people that we've spoken to and will have spoken to by the end of his visit, we've probably covered somewhere in the region of 3,000 or 4,000. And I think that's a step in the right direction to share his inspirations with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hassan, this question is to you. We are very well aware of your passion for astronomy because we have worked very closely with you. And now I would be very happy on behalf of all of us if you can ask something to Dr. Thomas. related to your field of expertise.
Oh, thank you. That's a very nice opportunity for me. I had a dream, just like you had a dream to become an astronaut. I couldn't fulfill it, but it was so amazing to listen to you. It really inspires those kind of dreams back to me. Why did you complete that? Definitely, I would invite everybody to pursue their dreams and try their best to become astronauts. It's an amazing thing. But what things, I want you to tell us the results of your all this experience. What do you think that maybe the most excited to become what you have done? All these things that you have achieved. Which part of it do you think is the most exciting part of it? Which, for that, it's worth all the effort?
That's a great question. Okay. That's a great question. I think I worked on a lot of science experiments. They each have their wonderful results and excitement there. But I think if you asked 100 astronauts, 99 would tell you what was the greatest thing was looking back at Earth and to see how fragile our planet is. And even the pictures I showed you, or sometimes we have these big IMAX movies, and those are great to see, but when you see the Earth with your own eye from space, and you see the pitch blackness of the sky, and coming right up against that, the blue limb of the Earth with the atmosphere glowing there, it takes your breath away. Every astronaut will gasp. They'll go, oh, wow, it's so amazing. And it changes you. You realize we have to take better care of our planet. And what happens in one part of the world is affecting the other part of planet Earth. So I think that realization is the greatest discovery for me, having that opportunity to look at the Earth, to study it, that realization we have to take better care of our planet. And it made me realize as soon as I got to space, other people have to come up here. I wanted my family, my friends, I want all of our students here to have the opportunity to look out the window. And if you could see the Earth, I think it would change each and every one of us and how we look at ourselves in the universe and how we view our Earth and what do we have to do together to keep it a healthy planet.
Good evening, sir. I'm Sumaya Kadri, and my question is, UAE's investment in space technology currently exceeds 20 billion, and this project will establish the sector as a key component in the future. So, what do you think will be the impact on the people living in UAE? This development.
People, I'm sorry. The question again?
UAE's investment in space technology exceeds 20 billion,
Okay.
and this project will establish the sector as a key component in the national economy in the future. So, what impact you think this development will have on the people living in UAE?
Okay, I think that's a great question, and one of the greatest impacts that the space program could have and that spending, like it had for me as a young boy, it will inspire the next generation. You know, having these programs going on. When you send a spacecraft to Mars, that's going to excite some of you over there, right? And your other students in school. And I think that's one of the greatest benefits of the space program. When I was a little boy, I got inspired to work hard in school, to become an engineer. And even if I hadn't made it into the astronaut program, I would have had a great education, worked as an engineer, had a great job. And I think that inspiration component is really important. And I think the UAE space program and the investments in space, that will excite and that will inspire your generation and the next generation to come. And I've spoken at schools across the United States and around the world, in South Africa, in Portugal, in Korea, in Japan. I travel all over. And when we talk about space, I see that sparkle in your eye that you have, just like I had when I was your age. And that's what our space program does, and that's what the UAE space program will do for you as well. So I think it's a great, great investment for our youth, for our students here.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, how do you digest the food that you eat in space, as there is no gravity?
How do you
Digest the food that you eat in space.
How do you digest the food that you eat? Many people think that you need gravity to have the food go down to your stomach, but that's not the case. We've got muscles in your neck and your esophagus that squeeze the food down. So it's mainly muscles doing the work for digestion. Gravity isn't that important at all.
Thank you, sir. I have another question. Did you have any, psychological problems when you just came back to Earth?
I'm glad my wife is not here to help answer that question. But, seriously, most of the astronauts, when they come back from space, they're a little bit down. When you're up in space, you're on top of the world, literally, and you're so enthusiastic. And when you come back and when you land, and I showed you that picture of me standing in front of the shuttle, at that moment, my name is at the exact bottom of the list for the next person to fly in space. And so there's a little bit of a depression that you would come in, when you first come back from space. But you also are, waiting in great anticipation for that other opportunity down the road. So it's a combination. You're a little bit sad when you come back from space, but you can't wait. I'm going to get that other trip, opportunity.
Sir, I have one last question. If you get a flesh wound or hurts, does it heal faster?
I don't think it'll heal faster in space. It'll probably be about the same. The one difference would be if you broke a bone. If you broke your arm in space or broke any bone, it'll heal probably a lot slower in space. Just because what stimulates bones to grow is putting force on them. And every day when we walk around and when we lift something, we're putting force on our bones that are stimulating the growth. In space, you have no force on your bones unless you're doing heavy exercise, and that would cause the bone to heal take a longer time to heal for you. But I think a flesh wound, it'll heal in about the same amount of time. And I don't think we've had much experience getting, major wounds at all in space. Maybe just small cuts, but they seem to heal pretty quickly. Some amazing questions here from our students.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Divya. I have another question. When you get into the space, your breath is taken by the enormity of what I've just accomplished and the number of people have worked together to make that happen. So how do you see the journey to the space?
How do I see
The journey to the space.
Space journey.
How do I see a space journey? With teamwork?
Yeah, teamwork.
Yeah, all the pictures I showed you, there's an image of 7 astronauts there, but it really is the thousands of people on the ground that support the mission that make them all possible. The astronauts get all the attention. When I was a little boy, my heroes were the astronauts. When I became an astronaut, my heroes changed. My heroes became the people who worked at the NASA centers that got the space shuttle ready for launch, that watched out for my safety. And those are the heroes. They got me safely up to space and safely back down to Earth. And it does take a huge team effort. At the Marshall Space Flight Center, where Mike Flashbar works, at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. There's thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that are working behind the scene, helping you to make sure that everything works perfectly. So it's a huge, huge team effort. And I'll bet you learned a little bit of teamwork at space camp, right? That's a great thing that we learn to work together as a team, and we accomplish things as a team, not as an individual. Thank you.
I have a question. What part do you think science subjects plays towards the making of scientists or astronauts precisely?
Say that last part.
What part do you think science subjects plays towards the making of scientists or astronauts precisely? Precisely, yeah.
To become an astronaut, we've got two types of astronauts. Our military pilots that fly the shuttle, and then we have science astronauts like myself. For the science astronauts, you know, the minimum requirement is a bachelor's degree in science, math, engineering, in the medical field. And then what really helps is having a master's or a doctorate, advanced education as well. And then they want you to have 4 years of work experience. So those things all help. For our military pilots, they want 3,000 to 4,000 hours of jet flying experience. So those are the requirements, basic requirements. But you got to have that drive inside, right? It's not just the numbers. You got to want to do this, and you have to have the passion to do it as well. I think I see some of that over here too.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Thomas, this question is again on behalf of the old children who are sitting here. I know that they all aspire to be scientists, technologists, astronauts. So we heard that in your first mission you performed more than 80 experiments in microgravity. So if you don't mind, can you share one of the most amazing experiments you performed in microgravity with our students?
You know, for the astronauts, I think the most fun experiments involve plants or animals. Something that was living. My background is in material science. I grew crystals in space, but I couldn't see them. I couldn't interact with them. My favorite experiments were those that involved small plants and animals. And I think I told the students yesterday, we had one experiment with baby jellyfish. And the jellyfish kind of squirt through the water. And what jellyfish will do here on Earth, they squirt to the top, they open their mouth, and with gravity and their mouth open, they fall and they feed. Squirt to the top, open their mouth, and feed. Well, in space, we took them up there. They would squirt to the top, open their mouth, and nothing would happen. They have their mouth open, there's no food coming in, so these baby jellyfish had to learn new swimming behaviors up there. We had another experiment with goldfish. We had 6 small fish in a round tank. And the goldfish will look wherever the light is, that's the top of the lake or ocean for them. And that's how they'll orient themselves. So we had this round tank, it had a light on the top.
Hassan, starting. The topic is space science, future aspects of space science in UAE.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As we see that these days we have
Something that was living.
Astronomy and aviation.
I would like to end with a quote which I have read recently. While expressing gratitude, the greatest appreciation is not just to simply utter words, but to live by them. Thank you.
Once again, on behalf of Crescent community, I thank Dubai Astronomy Group, Compass International Tours, specifically to Mrs. Missy Donnelly, and also Mr. Michael, representative of US NASA Space Research Center, where I spend long days with Mrs. Lissy Donnelly. Thank you so much for accomplishing this wonderful mission. Thank you so much.
Our invitees are requested to fill the feedback forms being distributed by our volunteers and hand over the same to the volunteers again. We will appreciate your feedback and suggestions on this occasion. Guests are requested to move to the refreshment area, that is the Crest Fresh, and the other Astro entertainment for the days are shooting stars, that is screening of short films on astronomy, stargazing, that is planetarium show, Mars Corner where we have henna designing and face painting, Saturn delicacy, that is the food court. Hope you all have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you.